Hi everybody! So today I wanted to do a video where I talk about how to tackle some tricky common chord progressions that you'll find whenever you're navigating common songbook tunes. I know in my progression, when I got to a point where I could play solid 2-5-1 lines, then these kind of chord progressions would pop up and would throw me off my game. But today, I wanted to break down a couple ways that we could start approaching these progressions that will hopefully make your lives a little easier. Alright, let's check it out right now. So the common tricky chord progression that we're going to look at today is this. This is a common walk-up progression that is used often in the blues, as well as songbook tunes like Lover Come Back to Me, If I Were a Bell, Rhythm Changes, It's Only a Paper Moon, as well as many others. So the first way I would approach this chord progression is by finding a guide tone line. A guide tone line is simply a melody whose notes are connected together by the smallest possible interval. So for example, a good guide tone line that we could use through these changes would be this. So all I did was I chose a starting note out of the arpeggio of the chord that we were over. So the chord that we first started playing over is F major 7, and I chose to start from the 7th. Then after that, I looked at when the next chord happens and how I can change that note that I'm on in the smallest possible way to fit over the next chord's arpeggio. So our next chord is F7 with A in the bass, so just really F7. And what we can do is take that E from our F major 7 and simply move it down to E flat, and that becomes the flat 7 of our dominant chord now. Then after the F7, it goes to B flat, so let's take our E flat and we're going to move it to D, which is the 3rd of our major chord. The next chord is B diminished, so what we're going to do is instead of moving, we're just going to stay on that D, and that's acceptable in these guide tone lines. You can stay on a note. I wouldn't do it too much, but it's okay once in a while to not move your guide tone line. And then lastly, we resolved to F. We went from B diminished to F with C in the bass, so we're just going to take that D and move it down to C, which is the 5th of our F major chord. Notice how I kept the guide tone line on notes of the arpeggios of the chords that we're playing over. Now it doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes you can add notes that aren't in the arpeggio if it makes the line move somewhere, but usually you want to aim for notes of the arpeggio. Okay, so once you have your guide tone line constructed, the next thing we want to do is find a way to make lines out of that using either enclosures or interval jumps. Here's an example based off the guide tone line that we just constructed. It works! I just used interval jumps to connect some of these notes together, or I used enclosures to connect them together. Here is one more example of a guide tone line, and then a way to connect that line together. Alright, so once you have your guide tone line and a way to connect those notes together, the next step that you can do, or the next process that you can use to tackle these chord changes, is by linking arpeggios together in the same sort of mindset. Here's an example. So the first step that you're going to want to do in order to connect arpeggios together is to simply practice your arpeggios in the same position on the guitar neck. So we're playing around the 8th fret on the guitar neck, so I would practice your arpeggios there for this example. This is how it should look. Once you have all your arpeggios down in whatever position that you want to play in, the next step is to link them together with the exact same mindset that we had when we were linking guide tones together. Once you're able to play the arpeggios in whatever position that you're practicing, the next step is to link them together using the exact same mindset that we used when we were creating our guide tone lines. You can also use enclosures as well. It doesn't have to be straight arpeggios all the time. Here are a couple examples of linking arpeggios together over this progression. So the last way that we're going to cover tackling these tricky common chord progressions is by playing a single linear line over the whole progression. All this means is just playing one connected line over all of it. An example of this would sound like this. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, just like arpeggios, is practice your scales in whatever position you're trying to play on the guitar neck. Here's what that should look like. Once you feel comfortable with those, try connecting these scales together. So how you do this is right before the chord changes, on the end of the beat before the downbeat to be exact, look and see what the next note that you're gonna play in that scale is, and if it fits into the chord scale of the next chord that we're going to. If it doesn't, you should be able to change it chromatically, either sharp it or flat it, to make it fit into the scale that we're going into. Practice this going up, down, and even changing directions through these changes. Here are a couple examples. So the processes that we covered in this video, being guide tone lines, linking arpeggios together, as well as connecting a linear line together, can be used over tricky chord progressions that you'll commonly see in songbook tunes. These could also include sharp 4 walkdowns, or passing diminished chords, as well as other progressions. If you have a progression that you find tricky and that you see a lot in these kind of tunes, let me know in the comment section, and for the next video I might focus on that one. Or if you just want me to make a part 2 and I'll focus on sharp 4 walkdowns, let me know in the comment section below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video about how to tackle tricky common chord progressions. What happens is that we build up a repertoire of how to deal with these kind of chord progressions, so when you see them they don't become as scary, and you can use your previous knowledge to play over them. If you guys like what you're seeing, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, and remember to always keep swinging.